Okay, so, ready to dive into some stoic wisdom with Seneca.
Always ready for a little timeless wisdom.
It's kind of wild he was writing about busyness like 2,000 years ago.
Wow.
2,000. And it's like more relevant now than ever, right?
Right. You'd think he'd be totally cool with like, and no wifey for a week. But actually, he'd probably be like, yep, saw that coming. This whole like hustle and grind thing we've got going on, Seneca called it.
Totally. These articles from the marginality you sent over,
Yeah.
spot on. It's not even that life is short. It's that we're making it feel short.
Yes. It's like we're cramming our schedules so full we don't have time to actually,
Yeah,
live act
exactly. Seneca would probably tell us to put down our phones, step away from the to-do list.
and actually just be. Even for like 5 minutes.
Right.
Radical, I read.
Right. And this whole thing on the shortness of life,
Hmm.
about how we're always rushing towards something, always thinking happiness is in the future.
Not in this moment, right here, right now.
Ugh, that hits home. And that metaphor he uses about the
Yeah.
ship in the storm.
A powerful image.
You could be on that ship, sailing for days. But if you're just getting tossed around by the waves,
Yeah.
have you really gone anywhere?
Nope, not really. And that's where philosophy comes in, right? Not just the intellectual stuff, but actually using it, like a how-to manual for life.
Okay, so instead of doom scrolling before bed, I should be, pondering stoic principles?
Maybe. Or just start smaller. 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Think about your day. Not even judging it, just noticing. That's a type of philosophy, too.
Huh. Adding 5 minutes of Seneca to my to-do list. Ironic, but maybe that's the point.
Maybe it is. Small steps.
And you know what's really interesting about Seneca? He wasn't just about, maximizing your day.
Mhm.
He really got into this whole other side of things.
Oh, absolutely. The dealing with the hard stuff.
Yes, exactly. Because life isn't all sunshine and productivity hacks, right?
Yeah.
So Seneca's like, hey, want to get really ready for life? Let's talk about misfortune.
Right. Which sounds kind of grim, but it's actually brilliant. He talks about mentally practicing for it.
Like mental fire drills for when life inevitably goes sideways.
Exactly. Because it will. It's not if you face hardship, it's when. So why not be somewhat prepared?
Okay, but how do you practice for something like that?
Well, he suggests kind of exposing yourself to discomfort. Not in a huge, life-ruining way, of course, but little things. Stepping outside your comfort zone.
Which is so funny to me because he actually says, establish business relations with poverty. Like, what? Who even says that anymore?
Right. But it's such as a Seneca thing to say, isn't it? Because we're so used to comfort now, like 2-day shipping, streaming, whatever we want.
Instant everything.
Exactly. And his point is, when you embrace a little discomfort, you realize, oh, I'm stronger than I thought.
Yeah, it's like instead of taking the elevator, you take the stairs that one time. Or you try that weird-looking vegetable at the store.
Yes. Little acts of courage, right.
Yeah.
Building up that mental resilience. And it's actually very similar to some modern therapy techniques, believe it or not.
Get out of here, really.
Yeah. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, uses this thing called controlled exposure. Basically, you gradually face your fears in a safe way. Sounds familiar, right?
It totally does. Like, Seneca was onto something way back then, without all the fancy research and stuff.
Right. And a really cool tool that kind of comes from this whole idea is the worry box. Have you heard of
I
that?
feel like I have. It's like for anxiety, right?
Exactly. Developed by a Dutch psychologist, Ad Kirchhoff. It's so simple but powerful. You basically imagine this box, and any worries you have, you put them in there.
So it's not that you're ignoring your problems, but it's like, okay, I see you worry, but you can wait in this box for now.
Yes, you're choosing when to deal with it, not letting it control you all the time.
It's like you're not letting those worries run your life, you're taking back control.
Right. Choosing when to engage. And it's funny because that ties into this whole idea of being present, which is where I think Alan Watts comes in.
Oh, yeah. His piece, Antidote to the Age of Anxiety. Talk about speaking directly to us right now, huh?
Totally. And he makes this point, right, about how we can't just be E. We're always stuck thinking about the future.
Which just creates more anxiety.
Exactly. It's like we're missing out on the N now W because we're so busy worrying about the what if.
And then you add in all the distractions we have now.
Oh, for sure. It's like that Watts quote about how we love measures, no solids, but surfaces, more data, more screens. But are we really connecting with anything real?
Right. Trading depth for,
Yeah.
what's the word? Like instant gratification, I guess.
Yeah. And all that feeds into this idea of the self, the ego. Watts talks about how this I, this identity we cling to, It's kind of an illusion.
Illusion.
Yeah, like it's built on memories, on our ideas about time, but if we could just let go of that,
Which is probably way harder than it sounds.
definitely not easy. But he tells this great story, a Persian parable. The sage gets to heaven's door and God's like, "Who's there?" And the sage is all, "It is I."
Oh.
Right. And God's like, "Nope, not how this works." So the sage goes away, meditates for years, comes back. Same deal. God says, "Who's there?" This time, the sage says, "It is thyself," and boom, the door opens.
So it's about, like, recognizing we're all connected, not just separate eyes bouncing around.
Exactly. Letting go of that ego, being present. That's where Wad says the piece is.
Okay, but how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
Besides, finding the nearest heaven's door.
Well, it's about those small moments, that first sip of coffee in the morning, actually listening, like really listening when someone's talking to you, just being present in your body, even for a minute, noticing things.
So it's less about adding more to our lives and more about how we're paying attention to what's already there.
Yes. And it's cool, even Seneca's thing about choosing discomfort, it kind of ties in here too.
Really? How so?
Think about it. When you try something new, you're automatically more present. You're having to pay attention because it's unfamiliar.
Oh, that's so true. It's like all these ideas, they all kind of fit together.
Yeah.
Seneca, Watts, this whole idea of mindfulness.
It's like they're all pointing us towards the same thing, living a more fulfilling life, but not in a shallow hustle kind of way.
More intentional.
Yes, with more presence. And maybe, just maybe, a little more peace of mind along the way.
I like the sound of that. And hey, listeners, if you're digging these ideas, think about how they resonate in your own life. Where can you be a little more stoic, a little more present, maybe even a little uncomfortable? It might just lead to something amazing.